Okay. Show me.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the GepRC channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. And consider subscribing if you like unbiased reviews. See, on this channel I buy most of the RCs myself with my own money. And that enables me to do unbiased, again, reviews. So again, consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at a GepRC quadcopter, high quality quadcopters, yay! So by buying things myself, that also means that I'm usually not the first to have a product. In this case, I'm the last, the very last. There are a couple of reasons for that though. This box, you've seen the title of the video, right? Contains a brand new Crocodile Baby 4 or Baby Crocodile 4. And with that, GepRC's bid at the 4-inch long-range quadcopters genre. Now, there are a couple of reasons for me ordering this quadcopter. The first one is this. Yeah, this is, well, this is obviously not a GepRC quadcopter. This is Diatone's bid at the 4-inch realm. This is their F4 quadcopter and it's one of my favorite quadcopters at the moment. So, yeah, it's a basher for me, 4-inch analog basher. That's why I wanted to try another 4-inch quadcopter. And that's where this GepRC comes in. So that's reason number one. There are a couple more reasons for that. I'll need to show you the quadcopter. So quick unboxing, here we go. Are you ready? Here we go. Okay, we have ourselves a quadcopter which is wrapped, and we'll take a closer look at the quadcopter obviously in a second. We get decals, which are always appreciated, thank you very much. And a care package. Let's see what's in our care package. Okay, we see 2 sets of propellers. So 1 set for the quadcopter and a spare set. Always nice. We see some straps. Different kinds of straps. Longer straps and a short strap. Okay, 3 straps, thank you very much. We see antenna tubes, which I won't need. You'll see that in a second. We see 2 spare arms, and I guess this is a rear arm and a front arm. Always appreciated, and that's rare in this genre. This is the first time. Well, other 4-inch quadcopters I've gotten didn't have spare arms. We have an Allen key. Okay, we get screws probably for the propellers. We see an adapter board or a controller board which is for the FV camera. We see landing feet and spares for the landing feet, I guess. We have a battery anti-skid pad and we have ourselves, these look to be stick screws and they are spares. We won't need those. And again, the quadcopter itself. That's everything we get. Okay, close look at the quadcopter. Okay, so like all GepRC quadcopters of late, of the last 1.5 years I think, this one is shrink wrapped, which protects the quadcopter nicely for shipping, right? Obviously we're gonna remove that right now. There you go, we've got ourselves a quadcopter, and I told you there are a couple of reasons for me ordering this specific one. The first one being I wanted another 4-inch quadcopter, like I told you. Second one, this one has a built-in 4K recorder, the Caddx Tertiary version 2. So that's not a new camera obviously, but is this the only 4-inch lightweight quadcopter with a built-in recorder? For as far as I know, I might have missed one, but well, it's a selling point of this quadcopter. If you want the convenience of always having your recorder in the quadcopter, that's definitely a convenience. Every time you switch this quadcopter on or connect up the Lipo, if you will, the recorder will start recording. You don't even have to think about it. You'll always have high def recordings. Also, it makes the setup a little bit lighter, I think, if you want a 4K recording. And maybe a little more streamlined, maybe. But well, mostly it's convenience and, well, again, you always have your 4K recorder with you on the quadcopter. Then the third one is this. It has a GPS, and it's not the only 4-inch long-range quadcopter with GPS, obviously, but this one has the GPS in an unconventional place, a very unconventional place. It sits on top of your Lipo. Oh, by the way, there's also a battery strap on the quadcopter, as you can tell, so 4 straps. Very nice. Yeah, so yeah, again, it sits on, basically mounted on the battery strap, which might be a little bit inconvenient, but it places your GPS antenna up high, horizontally and away from the electronics. You probably know that a lot of the 4-inch quadcopters have trouble getting a GPS fix. So this should fix that. This quadcopter should have a good GPS fix in a normal time, not like 15 minutes of waiting for a fix. We'll see. We'll do a test flight at the end of this video. Oh, I failed to mention that. In this video I'll give you my first impressions of this quadcopter, and we'll do a full test flight with onboard recording as well, 4K and DVR. So what more can I tell you? Yeah, you've noticed that these antennae over here, these are from the built-in Crossfire receiver. This quadcopter can be ordered with a normal FOSky receiver, even with an R9 receiver, or without a receiver, or this Crossfire receiver I have here. So yeah, that's a bit of a break of the norm for me, by the way. Usually I only run Crossfire on my digital quadcopters, and this is obviously an analog quadcopter. If you're new to my channel, I don't intend to long range fly this quadcopter at all. It's also analog, right? So analog quadcopter long range, yeah. I might have just as well ordered me the normal FOSky version, but that one was out of stock, so hence the Crossfire version. Alright guys, to waste as much of your time as humanly possible, we're gonna do 2 more things in this video. First of all, we're gonna take a close look at the configuration, so the Betaflight setup of this quadcopter. Are there omissions? Is it set up well? And then we're gonna take it out for a flight. Before we do, I have one complaint about the quadcopter so far. It doesn't come with an ND filter for the Caddx Charge version 2, which is weird. Because for as far as I know, the Caddx Charge version 2 comes with an ND filter. It does not stock come with this camera protector or lens protector, so that's a plus, I guess. But an ND filter I would have preferred, kinda. Yeah, especially if you're gonna be flying it on sunny days. You want an ND filter. That's a shame. I don't really understand. That's an omission, basically. GepRC, why doesn't it come with an ND filter? I think, again, the Caddx Charge version 2 comes with an ND filter stock, so... However, so far that's the only complaint, so that's good. Let's take a close look at the Betaflight configuration. And again, after that we'll take it for a spin. Here we go. Right, first up the port step. Let's see. So from this port step you can instantly see this quadcopter has an all-in-one Whoop style of flight controller / 4-in-1 ESC, right? And those don't have a lot of UARTs, and therefore you see that soft serial, basically a kind of fake UART. A make-believe you. Okay, so basically what this means is that this flight stick or this flight controller doesn't have enough UARTs for this setup. It should work. It's got the GPS antenna set up on that soft serial, so that should in theory work. But yeah, it would have been better to use some kind of a 4-in-1 ESC and a separate flight controller with some more UARTs. That would have been more convenient at least. Nevertheless, this should in theory work. Then the configuration. This is pretty okay, typical I'd say, but from this you can see that the ESC sensor isn't set up. And it shouldn't be an issue. The quadcopter should fly fine like this. but it could have maybe potentially flown a little bit better. We'll see. I suspect that the quadcopter will fly very well. That's my suspicion. Again, it would have been more polished, the setup would have been more polished if they would have set up ESC telemetry, the ESC sensor. Okay, and the rest of the configuration, yeah, here you see again that soft serials is engaged, also telemetry, even though I should add that my telemetry does not work. I don't know why exactly it should work, but I don't have RSSI, for instance, or link quality, which is a bit weird. Oh well. Okay, so air mode is always engaged, fine. OSD, yeah, dynamic filter, great. And the GPS is set up as well. So I guess at least they did some things to make this setup, the Betaflight setup, good for this quadcopter. Then the PIDs. Let's see. Are these are not stock. This setup is not stock. So that's great. Again, I suspect that the quadcopter will fly well, and that's because they've put some effort into the actual setup. This is not stock Betaflight, they've put effort into the setup. The rates, okay, they've dialed in some expo, not a whole lot, but okay, this is again better than nothing. They've at least put some effort into this configuration, and indeed some exponential is good for a quadcopter like this, especially if you add an action camera to it, which it already has. So that's good. Then the filtering, okay, yeah, again, filtering setup. And you don't get RPM filtering because ESC telemetry isn't set up. So I guess this frame is pretty stiff, or it smothers vibrations well, or the motors run smoothly. Nevertheless, they've put some effort into these filters, which should result in the quadcopter actually flying well. Then this is what the OSD is like, and yeah, they have added GPS things to the OSD. It is cluttered, it is busy, but at least if you are testing the quadcopter for the first flights, you want to be able to see if all features at least work. So I'd say take it up for a few flights like this and see what bothers you in this GPS. Maybe the satellite count, probably you'd want that. Altitude might not be of concern, or the speed, or the home direction and such, but at least you can check if everything works. And they have set up the RSSI at the bottom left, as you can see. RSSI does not work in my quadcopter, at least. Could of course be that I have a bad specimen, but again, RSSI or link quality neither give any value, or well, they also always give the 0 value. Then the failsafe setup, it is already, as you can tell, set up for GPS rescue, which, okay, that's a bit of a stretch maybe. In previous videos I've mentioned that you first want to test your GPS setup before you switch GPS rescue on, but okay. Here at the bottom right you can see that it will only arm, the quadcopter will only arm if it gets a GPS fix. I will disable that. I want to be able to fly if there's no GPS reception. We'll see in a minute if it actually does get a GPS lock, right? But again, if you don't want to wait for a GPS lock, you will want to switch that, allow arming without fix, you will want to switch that on, right? Okay. If you do that, by the way, if you arm the quadcopter before it gets a GPS fix, you won't have GPS rescue. GPS rescue will be disabled, just so you know, because it won't be, the quadcopter won't know, or the flight controller won't know where your home position would be. Then the flight modes. Okay, so at least they entered some flight modes, and the quadcopter should, in theory, be kind of flight ready when you receive it. You will of course have to bind your receiver to your transmitter. Other than that, the setup looks pretty complete, including a VTX setup, as you can tell here. Very nice. Everything looks set up and correct even. So that's nice. The VTX tables, as you can tell here, are set up and your power levels are set up correctly. And I would enable low power disarm, by the way. Might be a personal choice, but I don't want my VTX to be burning up while I'm waiting, for instance, for a GPS fix. So again, I will switch that low power disarm on. That way the VTX will sit at 25 milliwatts while you, well, do setup work, maybe switch on the recorder and wait for a GPS fix, things like that. Okay, so again, long story short, they have put a setup in. It looks pretty okay. Let's do some flying with the quadcopter, and after the flight we'll get back to the studio and see, well, I'll give you my closing thoughts on this GepRC Crocodile Baby 4. Let's do some flying, here we go. Alright guys, made a flight for the GepRC Baby Crocodile 4-inch. Word of note, I've let it sit plugged in for 10 minutes now. I have seen that it had a satellite reception. Right now it's at 0. It never got beyond 5. So yeah. Okay, let's see if it at least flies. Here we go. And it does fly. Now I seem to be in auto level mode. Automatic mode. Is it now solved? Yeah. Oh. Okay, I've got my modes messed up, but that's solved now as well. What more can I tell you? Yeah, I'm at a weird spot here. As you can tell, there, that's where I am. It's a windy day, so I've positioned myself next to a building, as you can tell, so that you can actually hear what the hell I am saying. So let's see. I saw me an FPV twitch. I've never seen that before, but the FPV feed got hung up for a second. 1 minute. So that's not good. Other than that, this is completely bone stock, right? Untuned, well, untuned by me. It does fly very smoothly. Very smoothly. The only thing that's not stock is the camera angle. I've increased the camera angle. To make the quadcopter a little faster. This is not the greatest spot to be flying at. That's okay, it's a test flight, but oh well. So far, yeah, I've got 0 satellites, which kinda negates the purpose of buying this weird setup with the GPS antenna on top of the Lipo. You can see from the top of my FPV feed that there was a GPS fix at some point. Do the numbers actually change at all? No. I have no idea why it lost its but again, it never got beyond 5, so if I wouldn't have changed the settings, the fail-safe settings, I would not have been able to take off today. So that's nice. Not you buy yourself a nice GepRC quadcopter, you won't be able to fly it. Again, 10-12 minutes I've waited for a GPS fix. Yeah, also, you can't see that because I've removed it from the screen. There is no RSSI or link quality. I don't know why, but they have not set that up correctly. Yeah. So with Crossfire you don't really need RSSI, maybe, but nevertheless I'd want it anyways. Yeah, so you know what? After this flight, I'll give you my closing thoughts on this quadcopter, and they will not be very positive. You can probably already tell why. It does fly nicely, that's a shame. Well, it's not a shame, of course, but it's a shame it has so many issues. So many issues. Yeah, no RSSI, no link quality. GPS doesn't work. From what I've heard, you can't set up amp draw monitoring with this quadcopter either, because of the lack of COM ports. Yeah, I guess they simply used the wrong flight controller board / ESC combo for this quadcopter. I had kinda expected to see satellite reception after a while in this flight, but nope. Okay, I've been flying for 5 minutes. The flight time will not be enormously huge, partly because I increased the camera angle, right? This way the quadcopter will be more power hungry. That's okay for a first test flight. 5 minutes, there you go. Yeah, it does fly nicely. No GPS, no RSSI, no link quality. And the video feed, you tell me in the comment section below, it's okay-ish. Well, I'm flying behind myself now. It's okay for an analog setup. Maybe it's hampered by me standing next to this building. Maybe there's a Wi-Fi in this building, probably. So it's okay. Not brilliant, but okay. The quadcopter flies very smoothly though. Very nice. I will probably remove the GPS as I don't really need it. It would have been a nice bonus to have, but well, it doesn't work. So yeah, I'll probably remove the GPS and make sure I get my RSSI working. That way I won't be needing the soft serial anymore, which is always nice. Still no GPS. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna call it no GPS. And you know what? This is enough. By now you've seen some onboard footage as well, but let's go back to the studio and I'll give you my closing thoughts on this version at least of the LR4, well, the baby Crocodile from GepRC. Over to the studio. Alright guys, closing thoughts on this GepRC Crocodile Baby 4 or Baby Crocodile 4, their long range 4-inch quadcopter. And yeah, let me first show you some onboard footage from the Caddx J. And it's not a new camera, right? It's been out for a while, so you probably know the merits of that recorder. Now, the weird thing is, most of the things in the quadcopter were set up, were put attention to, if you will, if that's correct English. You probably know what I mean. However, the J was set to 4K 30 frames a second, which isn't horrible. You will need a fast memory card for that, by the way. But at 30 frames a second you'd want an ND filter. So without the ND filter I'd say set it to, for instance, 2.7K 60 frames a second. Right, that way you won't have vibrations or less vibration artifacts in your video. Speaking of, at 30 frames a second, without the ND filter, I did have me some vibration in the onboard footage. Yeah, and the other thing was that the recordings were upside down. Yeah, so yeah, that's a bit of a weird thing. This isn't, for as far as I know, the stock setting of the Caddx J. I think, again, the stock setting is 2.7K 60 frames a second. Okay, but yeah, I only flew the quadcopter in horrible weather. And that's why I don't have brilliant recordings. And this review isn't really about that onboard to that GepRC Charger anyway. Again, you probably know if it's good or bad, or if it's good enough for you. I do like the GepRC Charger too, by the way, on sunny days with an ND filter. Then the quadcopter itself, I actually contacted a friend of mine which has the baby Crocodile 4, but he has the digital version, and that one doesn't have the GPS on the battery like mine has. It has a GPS receiver at the rear, like here. Yeah, and in his, he does have GPS satellite reception. So, or maybe I simply got a dot. And actually, in Betaflight I can see that the flight controller does have communication with this GPS antenna. It simply never receives enough. Maybe there's some interference from the receiver, my crossfire receiver, who knows. Long story short, in mine it doesn't work, and this is the only one I have, so for me, no go, it doesn't work. Regrettably, yeah. And again, I'll probably end up removing the GPS as it doesn't work. Anyway, it'll save me, what, 10 grams maybe on the quadcopter. And yeah, so then I'd have a well-flying quadcopter. I did like flying the quadcopter. It is a little less sporty than Diatone's offering. I'm not sure why. The KV on the motors might be a little lower. Yeah. Probably a little lower KV on the motors, but it's also more efficient. You can't have both, right? You can't have super long flight times and have it be fast and sporty and exciting. So GepRC went for the long flight route, and that's okay. It should be a relaxing quadcopter to fly. I've only flown it in windy conditions and it held its own, but it'll probably fly better in, well, nice and sunny days. And yeah, no RSSI, no link quality. So basically, for me, I wouldn't buy it again. There are too many things wrong with the quadcopter. No GPS, no link quality, no RSSI. And what more? Yeah, the recording upside down. That's a little thing, of course, not really important. But yeah, oh, and no ND filter. That is... I'm not sure why. As far as I know, again, GepRC ships these cameras with an ND filter. So, and that's it. Yeah, shame. I think the quadcopter can fly well. If you don't value the GPS much, I'd say the digital version might be a good option. And maybe the analog version if you don't, again, value the GPS. And that's it. You tell me in the comment section below, maybe you have this exact quadcopter and yours does have GPS. It is set up correctly in Betaflight, so I'm not sure. Hope this was helpful. Again, if you are left with questions, hit me up on the comment down below. Catch you on the next video. Bye bye.